Hello, everyone. Part of EmpowerX. EmpowerX also has programs for youth, women, entrepreneurs, and the capacity to do activations at events. Welcome and thank you for choosing to join the digital conversations hosted by Empowerment. It is a monologue, and your mics obviously will be muted, but you'll be able to enjoy the full video. The views of the speakers are theirs and not those of Empowerment. We are but just providing a platform for these crucial conversations and talks to happen during this lockdown period. I would like to thank the speakers firm for organizing the speakers. The upcoming talk is going to be on gender-based violence against men, a silent crisis. It's going to be led by Gugulethu Xaba. Why empowerment platform, especially during this period? From empowerment perspective, we wanted to change the narrative from pointing a finger to men, to inviting men to play their part, men to rise above the stereotypes, the status quo, and become holistically great men. We want to inspire men to fight for all the right reasons, stand up for all the right things, and unapologetically embrace all it means to be a man. And of course, perhaps most likely and importantly, we want to provide an inclusive platform that challenges every person who calls himself male, no matter their position in life, sexual preference, stature, or nature, to become an active agent of change at home, at work, and in the community. To get direct invitations, please contact us on our WhatsApp number 082 088 5262 or visit the www.empowerment.co website. I would like to welcome everybody that is listening to us when we live stream this on the following platforms: EmpowerX YouTube, Instagram at Empowerment, Twitter at Empowerment, and Facebook at Empowerment. And the hashtag that we are all using is I am Empowerment. As I said, the next speaker that is coming up is Gugulethu Xaba. He's a speaker, a thinker, and a social commentator. His topic is the gender-based violence against men, a silent crisis. Over to you, Gugulethu.
Hey, good morning. Everybody's watching. Thank you to Empowerment for giving us this platform to be able to talk about these issues which are affecting men, women, and children in society. My topic today, it's very intense, but I'm going to raise a few subtle issues that we usually don't talk about openly. But usually when we're with guys in the corners, in the bars, in the taverns, in the churches, we talk about these things. That's the unfortunate part, that we only vent out. We hardly get an opportunity to engage with our women and make them understand that this is how we feel. Today, I'm hoping that as we talk, we'll be able to say, this is how I feel. Every man will be able to talk to their woman and say, baby, this is how I feel. These are the things that are affecting me. Because all relationships depend on the two people or three people who are involved in those relationships, depending on the type of relationship you have chosen for yourself. I want to talk about subtle dimensions of abuse against men. I'm going to try and provide a few pointers that I see as a way forward on the things that we can converse about. Gender-based violence, it's usually a thing that people connect to women, to children only. They usually say, we've got a lot of campaigns from Beijing, because there was a need for us to be able to take that particular step. But what has not been dealt with is the men who are themselves involved in all this violence in the world. Whether are they also not being violated? What is it that makes men to be so violent, to be so volatile, to behave in a manner that ensures that women are brutalized and children are brutalized? I want to propose a few things today. Perhaps these men are also violated. Perhaps these men are also dealt with in a way that makes them feel so bad. Because nobody in this world is born violent. Nobody. Every child is born beautiful, cute. We even call them many words in the Twitter world, bundles of joy. Every man that is violent, that is in prison, that has killed somebody, was once called bundle of joy. Beautiful, cute baby. What is it that transforms this bundle of joy into a violent person somehow? I don't want to talk about the core issues. I've heard my brothers have been talking about the core issues throughout since we've started with this conversation. They've talked about the psychological effects that lead to people to become monsters. They've spoken about boy child being neglected. They've spoken about other issues. I want to talk as a middle class man, because the emerging middle class has brought about a few other challenges in society. That's why I want to make a few propositions. But first and foremost, I want to persuade all of us to agree and to understand and accept that indeed men are also violated. There is gender-based violence against men. That's my proposition. Unfortunately, most men who are injured, for instance, when you look in Britain, the statistics in Britain are saying 40% of men in Britain are the ones who are violated. Each time there's violence against people in Britain, 40% of those people are men. Well, as we know, other men are violated by other men, but also many men are violated by women in this world. And it's something that we need to talk about. Unfortunately, most men do not report their cases because of a stigma. When you report a matter, my mother-in-law was telling me that one guy went to a police station to report a case that he was beaten by his woman with an iron in the head. And when he went there, the policeman says, "Ish, I can't write your statement. My pen has a problem. Let me go behind." And he was calling other policemen to come and see this man to say, "Hey, here's a man who's been beaten by a woman." As a result, most men are afraid to talk about those things. It's even worse when those men are transgendered or those men are homosexuals. Because when your homosexual partner beats you up and you have not yet come out and told your family that you were gay, and now your gay partner is beating you up, you are even afraid because they threaten you and they say to you, "We are going to tell people that you are gay." And now you are beaten by a gay man because you have not yet come out. So there's many other issues that we need to talk about. That's why I'm calling this gender-based violence against men a silent crisis. It is a silent crisis. Most people are quiet about it. It is a muted reality and it is a subtle problem. Let's talk about these things. Very, very, very silent. It's very, very subtle. But I want to talk to you about maybe 5 instances where our partners, women partners, are finding themselves violating men on day-to-day basis, but nobody is saying anything about those particular things. 1, most men are denied access to their children in society. Most men are denied access to their children in society. How many times have you seen a man standing outside and they just want to see their babies and talk to their kids? The biggest problem in society that we have is children who are growing without their fathers. But nobody stands to ask why and where is this father? Most of the time we assume that, no, these guys have neglected their children. These guys are irresponsible. These guys do not care. Only to find out that this man is denied access to their children. Many guys, when you talk to them, I'm a pastor myself, when I talk to guys in church, you'll find a guy crying tears. And then you ask, what's the problem? They will say, I want to have a relationship with my son or my daughter. But the mother of the child says, I cannot see the son. I cannot see the daughter. Sometimes there's reasons like, I've not yet paid lobola for the child. Sometimes there's other reasons that are saying, no, because I broke up with the mother of the child. I cannot see the child. That's one of the biggest abuses in our society, in our community. Most men are unable to have access to their children. And that's subtle bullying. That's gender-based violence against men. Most men are emotionally losing it. They cannot contain themselves because they are unable to have those particular accesses. It's even worse when a man believes in African traditional things in such a way that Amadlozi or the ancestors want to make a relationship with that child. We need to slaughter something for that child, but the mother says no, or the Mama Zala says no. That's one of the areas where men are being violated. Number 2, proposition, and something which I see a lot of times. It's this thing which is called ijazi. ijazi. In Zulu, we refer to ijazi. It's when the child is not yours, but the mother says the child is yours. There are many men who have raised children who are not their children. Many men out there. There's even a show on TV that helps people to go and test, do blood tests. I know of a story in one hospital where one guy who was working in a lab brought his child. He did as though he's taking a daughter to work, type of a thing. When he got to the lab, he removed the hair, tested the saliva. He wanted to make sure that the child was his. Boom! For him, that child was not his. And then when he went and confronted his wife about it, his wife went to the employer and told the employer that this guy tested the child without consent. And the guy was fired from work. There are many cases like that in society of those type of men who are being bullied, who are being ostracized, who are being castrated based on being given each as children that do not belong to them. But nobody wants to talk about that. They are saying, hey, bro, keep quiet, just keep on supporting their child. Some of these men have fallen in love with these children for many years. And later in life, when the child is 30 years old and involved in an accident, a man is called to come and donate blood for his child. Boom, it's a shock. He realizes that their blood do not match because this child is not his, but he was given each as. That's another subtle way of abuse. Let's talk about the third way of abuse. It's women using sex as a weapon. Women using sex as a weapon. When you're in a relationship, a consensual relationship, our laws requires that before you indulge in sex, you need to consent. Even when you're married, you need to consent. But most women have utilized sex as a weapon. They are doing what we call in the township, ukshaya isandla, hitting your hand, making sure that you do not access what you're supposed to be freely enjoying as partners. As people who are married, as people who are in love, to enjoy each other sexually and romantically should be something that is open, something that is beautiful. But majority of the young women, they're using that to manipulate, for money, to manipulate, for power, to manipulate for space in their homes. As a result, some of the men are not happy in their families. As a result, it ends up being a violent type of an abusive relationship. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 is women refusing. But before I move to number 4, there was this young lady who has made a statement all over the place saying South African men are small, they've got small dicks. And I heard Mr. Mnyageni yesterday, he was also speaking about the size of the dick. Most men are ashamed, and they are belittled and they are ridiculed by their women who tells them that it's either you're small, it's either you're not performing well. We're finding ourselves in these relationships which are performance-based type of relationships. And this thing does not happen in the beginning. It happens somewhere in the middle, and it shocks many men. Men are subtle, abused by women using that issue of sex. But let's go to number 4, colleagues, so that we can have a conversation. Another issue is women refusing to carry more financial weight in the family. I've realized that as time goes on, there are some women, when you meet a woman, you meet her being very young, either sometimes they're at school, you are the one who's taking care of business, you buy petrol, you pay for the rent, you buy for the food. Suddenly, the situation of the woman changes as time goes on. And we have noticed that most women actually are doing better than men because there are opportunities in society in South Africa which are created by the democratic dispensation to make sure that women have money. When we go on, but there are many women who do not want to pay their 50%. They demand 50% of the rights, 50% of conversation, 50% of everything, but they don't want to pay 50% of expenses in their houses. I've made an observation where some of the men living with a woman, this woman looks rich. She dresses Gucci, she dresses Louis Vuitton, but this guy looks poor, but they're living in the same home. Where is the problem? This woman drives a Porsche car, but this man drives an old Corolla. What happened between these two people who are living in the same space? It's because some of the women abuse and bully men and they don't want to pay for their part. Last manifestation of this gender-based violence is this. There's this thing which I call new money, new power. There is a changing social context in our society, which is informed by new money. Let me share with you a study which was done by some scholars, Abramsky and others in Tanzania. It's a 2019 study. You can go and look for it. The title for the study is Women's Income and Risk of Intimate Partner Violence. Let me repeat that. The study is Women's Income and Risk of Intimate Partner Violence in Tanzania. The key author there is Abramsky, and there's other 5 authors who have written this study. Here are their findings in the study. Number 1, they say when women earn more money, when they begin to earn more money, they show greater levels of confidence to assert opinion different of their partner. That is good. Money makes women confident. They're now able to articulate. But where the challenge is, they become more confident to differ most of the times. Number 2, Abramsky, not me. These scholars are saying this thing. They say the more women's financial contribution, the more they frequently argue about their male partner's inability to provide. In simple terms, the more women contribute more money in the family, they feel now they can criticize their partner but you're not doing enough. You're not ambitious enough. You're not pushing yourself to the next level. That's what money does to women. Number 3, they say more money leads to increased bargaining power of women. When women earn more money, they start to renegotiate the terms. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. We need to all renegotiate the terms. Isn't it that life evolves? There's evolution in life. They begin more money. That's what money does. That's why men should know that the more your woman becomes successful in life, she will renegotiate. That's why men, in our minds, we need to note that my woman is becoming better. It's time for us to renegotiate some of the terms that we had implemented at the beginning of our relationship. Number 4, they say the more women earn more money. This is what Abramsky and others are saying. They say the more women earn more money, what they do, there's more chances for them to divorce their husbands. It's like each time women have money, they're thinking, I need a better husband than this one. But I had a discussion with some of my women friends about this thing. One of my friends says this thing to me. She says, men have taught women about money. We are the ones who taught them about money. We show them that money can commodify you, money can buy you, if you have money, you can dictate. If you have money, you can buy things. As a result, women are saying, what we are actually doing when we have money, we are doing exactly what you have been doing as men all these years. And that got me really thinking. Did we teach them? Maybe all of us together, we need to learn and unlearn some of the things that we've been doing, because we can see it. And most guys with money, they display their toys and they control. We have always used money to control our women. But these days, women have more money than most men. As a result, they are using the same thing, they are juxtaposing it, and they are beginning to control these men with that money, which is something that creates a problem between men. Let me use these last 5-6 minutes of my time to deal with these things, which I call, what is it that men then do? When a woman begins to behave differently, when a woman begins to do the things that I've outlined that women are beginning to do these days to their men, then men do what I call, they find toxic and dangerous escapes for themselves. Men find toxic and dangerous escapes for themselves. The first escape that men usually run to is what psychology calls, they suffer gender role strain. Most men, they suffer gender role strain. They exhibit aggression. They use aggression to say, don't tell me this is my home. I'm the one who's in charge. They resort to strength. They resort to their manhood instead of engaging and discussing these challenges and this change with their women. Number 2, most men go on a toxic journey of discovery. They go on a toxic journey of discovery. That involves substance abuse. Majority of the men who are drinking day in, day out, it's because they're trying to accommodate the problems that they have at home. I know many men, and I've talked with many men who are having a problem now that we're in this lockdown. Those men are having serious problem because they used to run away from their women. I remember driving from Polokwane with another man some time ago. I was amazed how this man was drinking. I've never seen a man drinking 6 bottles of red wine, Cabernet Sauvignon, in one trip from Polokwane to Pretoria. And then this man, when I found out later, he wanted to make sure that by the time he gets home, he is drunk so that he cannot account. That's the unfortunate part of our lives in South Africa. Majority of men, they hang out in bars, they spend a lot of time away from home so that they can get home very late when everybody is tired, or they get home very drunk, or get home very high so that they cannot be accounting to the things or confront the situation that they are exposed to, the abuse that they are subjected to. Another thing which happens, which is a toxic journey of discovery, is the dependency on outsiders syndrome. Men develop a dependency on outsiders. They begin to trust and to rely on the advice and support of people outside their families more than their families, because home is dangerous for them. That's why a man says, "What do you think, bruh?" Or Ranjan, each time they speak, they want confirmation from their friends. Or Ranjan, bruh, instead of confirmation from their family members, because they cannot trust. They don't have a safe place in their homes. They are being bullied, but because they are men, they can't tell anyone. They just automatically resort to trusting more other people from outside than themselves. Another thing that I've seen, which happens, which is a toxic journey of discovery, it's when men overcommit in outside things like work. A man that comes back from work at 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, works as if they are paid extra hours all the time. Sometimes it's because they are afraid of staying at home with their wives. They don't want to account, they don't want to engage on these things, or they don't want to be disrespected and abused. When you're at work, you call the shots, you clap your fingers, and the workers jump. But when you're at home, it's like you're having a tail which is behind yourself, behind your legs. That's why men spend most time. There's another one which manifests itself the same way. Men spending too much time in politics, spending too much time in church. You find a man every day is in church. Monday it's choir, Tuesday is prayer warriors, Thursday it's this and that. There's something that this man is running away from at home. He's powerful in church. Everybody says amen. But when he goes back home, he's afraid of his wife because he's being bullied. He's even afraid of indulging sexually with his wife because he's going to be told that he's underperforming with his wife. The last one is that other men, then they go on a toxic journey of discovery by dating younger girls than themselves. Younger girls than themselves. Because when you date a younger girl, you can impress her by just buying her airtime. But your wife, you are afraid of your wife at home. The last thing that people like that do is to use money to parent their kids because they are no longer at home most of the times. As such, they are parenting through money. Let me then make a few propositions as my last part of this conversation, is that what is it that needs to be done? Karl Marx asked, it's not Karl Marx, it's Lenin. Lenin asked the same question, what is to be done? Because at the end of the day, after we've had the conversations, we must say, what is it that we should do? The first thing I want to propose is that we all need to acknowledge that gender-based violence affects both genders. It affects male, it affects female, not only male, not only female. Number two, men and women should talk about change. We must engage. We need to sit down. Usually women say, baby, can we talk? Baby, we need to talk. And men run away. It's time for men to say, baby, can we talk? It's time for us as men to tell our women, I don't like this thing. I'm not happy. I'm hurt. I'm offended. And we begin to say these things and we raise them and we talk to those particular things. Number three, we need to ensure that the empowerment of women does not lead to an unempowerment of men. Because the problem that is happening in South Africa, basically, each time we pick a rallying point, like to say women are being abused, we forget that there's men who are also abused. Each time we want to create opportunities for women, we forget to create opportunities for men. As a result, we have more women working and more men not working. More women having more money and men having no money. As a result, men are losing control of their families. So when we empower women, let's also continue empowering men in our society. The last thing is that we need to have interventions which are involving both male and female. In the future, the speakers, even here at Empowerment, must have a point of view of women, but women must also have an opportunity to listen to us. And I'm happy, Xaba, that today in particular, some of our women are listening to these conversations. As a result, we can be able to have that particular discussion as we build our societies. So I've tried today to engage with you, to make you see the other side of things, that the brutality that women unleash against men is not physical most of the times. Well, there are cases which are showing that some men are physically abused, but most of the times the brutality against men in society, it manifests itself in these subtle ways. That's why this is a silent crisis that we must confront. This is a silent crisis that we must address. Mr. Xaba, this is where I end my conversation so far, my presentation. I would like to thank EmpowerWorks. I'd like to thank Empowerment for giving us this opportunity to have a conversation. I hope my brothers in particular and all my sisters have managed to raise issues that we can start like engaging upon and conversing about so that we can build, because the intention at the end of the day should be to build a nation, to build society. It should not just be to say that we are just throwing mud at each other. What I was trying to do with all these issues is to show women that we feel these things. We too are human. Maybe we are appearing to be macho, but we feel these things. When we are alone, we do cry. And we're exposed to all these bad things. We feel the violence. But this is how it comes across to us, this violence. The biggest thing that we see is when our women come across as though they do not respect us. So we are asking, Bafas Betu, Zitandwa Zetu, let us work together to build these families and society. I thank you and I honor you.
Yo, thank you very much, Xaba. What I appreciate is how you ended up with solutions and pointing us to what we can do together. I normally take journeys, but this journey of toxic discovery is a journey that you framed so well that is going to give me another way of looking at the challenges that we face and what we can do to see when there's a problem. I thank you very much for what you have shared with us and the contribution that you have made on the empowerment platform, where we want to make sure that we have conversations wherever we are. I hope everybody that was listening on YouTube, on Instagram at Empowerment and Twitter Empowerment, as well as Facebook Empowerment, got something out of your talk. I definitely did get something out of it, and I appreciate it. I honor you, and thank you very much for your bravery and the ability to articulate some of the most difficult conversations so well. The next conversation that's going to come up is going to be at 1 o'clock with Bonsai Shongwe. He's going to talk about men and principles, how to navigate the new era post-COVID-19. And I look forward to that also to add to what you have just contributed. For everybody listening out there, we'll see you at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.